Earlier, we were looking at using parentheses to modify the order of operations in an arithmetic expression. And we looked at a grade averaging program where we divided 3 grades by the number 3 in order to get the average. Now, arithmetically, the program was correct in that there were 3 grades, so that's the number we do divide by to get the average. But from a programming style standpoint, the program is not really that good. The reason is that we used a literal, the number 3, to express the denominator of that expression when we really should have used what's called a constant. A constant is a variable whose value cannot change over the life of a program. We define a constant like so. I'll move down to the line after we declare the average. Declaring a constant begins with the keyword const, which is a reserve word that lets the compiler know that the following variable declaration is a constant, followed by the data type of the constant, followed by a name for the constant, followed by the assignment operator, and then the value we want to assign the constant. A constant is just like a variable in the sense that we use it by just using its name where we want the value to go. So to divide by 3 or to divide by numgrades, we just put the value numgrades there. Now if we run this program, we'll see that we get the same result as we got earlier. But now we're using a name rather than a number, which is always a good idea in computer programming. For one thing, if the number changes, all we have to do is make the change in the line where the constant is declared rather than any place else in the program. Imagine that this is a big, large grade calculating program. We might have to compute the average in many different places. It's much easier to have one name for that value rather than try to type the number itself. And what if the number of grades changes? Do we want to go through several calculations and change the number in every place? Or do we want to just make the change one time where the constant declaration is? Let's look at another example that'll make it even clearer why using constants is a good idea. What I'll do here is comment out this code. We'll do it in a block. I'm not going to run the following code, but it'll make it easier to follow my discussion if it's commented out. Let's say we're doing some geometric computations and we need to use the value pi. For example, we want to compute the circumference. So we'll create a variable called circumference. We need a radius for a circle. And then to compute the circumference, that formula is 2 times pi. So we're going to type out pi times the radius. Whoops, a little trouble typing there. Let me put some spaces here, make this a little bit easier to read. Okay, and then later on in the program, I'll simulate that with a comment. We want to compute the area. Create a variable for that. And then we have to compute the area with the formula pi r squared. Well, now I've got to write out pi again. And then radius times radius to get the square. We're going to learn in the next video how to use a function to compute that. And then we go on down many lines more. And then we have a sphere that we want to compute the volume. Well, to do that, we need a variable for the volume. And then the formula, which is 4/3 pi r cubed. So again, I need pi, and then I need radius times radius times radius. Now, the biggest problem with this is that I've had to type out this number for pi several times, and it's very easy to make a mistake. If I'm off by even 1 digit, it can really change the values of the computations and cause a problem. An easier way to have written this program would have been, at the beginning, to declare pi as a constant. And then, every time I need to use the value for pi, I simply write in the name. Using constants makes a program so much easier to maintain because the constant is declared in one place. That's called a single point of control. If I need to change the value, now with pi you probably wouldn't ever have to do that, but if I did, all I have to do is make one change. I don't have to change it in the 3 or 300 or 3,000 places that I wrote it originally. And it's very easy to read it because I can simply scan through my program. Read 2 times pi times radius is easier than reading 2 times 3.14159.265 times radius. So using constants is always a good idea in a program anytime you have a value that's probably not going to change or is used a lot of times and you want a single point of control for that value. In my next video, we'll talk about the use of math functions to compute things like a square of a number or a cube of a number or the absolute value of a number or square root or other advanced math functions that aren't built into the C++ language.